Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World as we look forward to Norwich City versus Cardiff City tomorrow afternoon. Just a quick one, really, 20 minutes or so to talk about the Norwich game, look at the Norwich team, look at the Cardiff team, discuss some of the positives, I suppose, of Cardiff and stuff like that. And we look ahead. We've got to keep moving forward. No time to feel sorry for ourselves, etc. Straight after this on Cardiff City World, 9 o'clock, is Michael Chopra Part 2 from the City Legends events, which we filmed just before Christmas. The second part is predominantly the fans in attendance guiding the conversation, which is obviously a lot of fun. The first part, which we dropped last week on both Cardiff City World and A's Podcast Nation, is predominantly, I would say, about his gambling and some of the issues which arose from that. And then this one is more about his football, his career, his time up at Cardiff and coming through at Newcastle, is the influence of people like Alan Shearer and Roy Keane on his career, which was obviously a big thing for him. Massive. He was massive for Cardiff, etc. It's really interesting. So another hour of content coming at 9 o'clock. Michael Chopra. Beautiful. But tonight it's only on Cardiff City World. I'll be dropping it on Ace Podcast Nation then later on, because obviously we're trying to build up the Cardiff City channel as it goes. So that's what it is. But with the thing at hand, because we haven't got too much time, Norwich City play host to Cardiff City tomorrow. As we look to, they'll be looking for a win that can really get their season going in terms for Cardiff. They've got to kickstart it and try and make things happen. From Norwich's point of view, a win could take them into the playoff places. So it's a big, big game. It's not going to be an easy game. You'd like to think for both sides, but look, the way Cardiff are playing is not encouraging, shall we say, at the moment. But I don't think all is lost, which I'll discuss in a bit about the Cardiff side of things. But we obviously, as is tradition, first and foremost, we focus on the opponents. So Norwich City, just outside the playoffs, as you can see. I'm just going to move this image up here and see. Don't know if it'll come up on the screen or not. We'll see. We'll give it a second. Look, Norwich is 7th. They're at level on points with Coventry, who are just above them. And it's quite a fascinating look at that table. Like, it's so close. And that's what I think has been disappointing for Cardiff City fans. It's not that we're not in the playoffs, because realistically, I don't think anyone expected Cardiff to make the playoffs this year, or really even be in the conversation for it. I just think when we went into January, start of January, if we'd got January right and early, we felt like we could kick on, because we only had a couple of games in January. And if you've got people in, you look at the impact Kiefer Moore's had at Ipswich straight away. Could they have got that deal over the line? Who knows? It's frustrating to look at, but we don't want to go down sort of that. We don't have moan about that. Norwich have won 3 of their last 5. They've drawn and lost the other. They've been in relatively good form. Their home form is pretty good. It's a weird one, right? Because it's not the easiest place to go, but it is a place where sometimes the fans do get a bit frustrated. Like if they fall behind or if they're not playing fantastically, it does sometimes mean that you can get the crowd on their back a little bit. So for me, I just think Cardiff got nothing to lose at the end of the day. And if we could get the scoring goals is Cardiff's problem, and Norwich are not short of goals in their team. They're not short of creativity in their team. So it becomes a bit of an issue in terms of, like, how can Cardiff get at Norwich? What do Cardiff need to do to stop Norwich? I don't know what I'm doing there. Don't think that's going to work. So we have to, first and foremost, we'll have a look at Norwich, and we look at who are their danger men. Obviously, one of the things which jumps out at you straight away is they in the January window signed Sidney Van Hooijdonk, which I think was a great signing. He was linked to Cardiff, and he was someone who I thought, if we couldn't get Kiefer Moore, I was quite up for getting Sidney Van Hooijdonk. Good finisher, dangerous in the box, comes alive in those kind of areas, always finds himself in the right sort of right place, got a knack for scoring goals. So most recently, Norwich beat Watford 4-2. Obviously, Cardiff beat Norwich. Cardiff beat Watford 1-0 the other day. The one thing which Norwich have is goals and creativity. As I mentioned, you've got people like Sargent and Sarah, Van Hooijdonk and alike, and they play good football. They play quite attacking football. They kind of line up in that, similar to what we play in that sort of 4-4-2-3-1. So I think from that side of things, Cardiff can match it up, the system, and there is places where you can get in Norwich. I feel, I don't think they've got the paciest of centre backs. So if you could get in and around them and play off Jeju, there's an opportunity there. But you've got to have that attacking intent. You've got to have that attacking urgency, which I also unfortunately feel that is something Cardiff have lacked, especially recently. Is we have got pace, but we don't seem to want to use it to get in behind teams, which I find incredibly frustrating. It kind of is what it is with the Cardiff side of things. We have to find a way to get that, pick up the pace, pick up the urgency, and just generally try and find something. Because I do think people like Jeju, Bowler, Grant, if they can get a couple of goals, they will push on. They will score some more, and it's whether we can really push on. Norwich have got some very experienced players in their first team. They've got a really good goalkeeper in Angus Gunn. But they've also got George Long, who they could play in goal, who's a pretty good championship goalkeeper. So they're strong there. They've got Grant Hanley, who I'm not sure is fit at the moment, but Ben Gibson in defence. I like the fullback Stacey. Shane Duffy, obviously very experienced performer. So most recently against Watford, they lined up with a defence of Stacey, Sorensen, Gibson, and Giannolis. Giannolis is someone who I think actually at fullback you can get at him a little bit, but it's kind of one of them, because to me, I've always thought he is better, Giannolis, as a centre back, but he's played left back for a lot of his career. Some of the best times I've seen him play is when he's played as part of the left hand side of a three. But Norwich do not tend to do that. He is decent. He's good on the ball. And those wide areas, as always, are really important in the games when particularly in that 4-2-3-1 system. 4-2-3-1, like the two fullbacks. And then because the wide attackers in that system tend to be quite inverted, and they'll cut in and they'll create a space for the fullbacks potentially to overlap. Now, Stacey in particular will really look to get forward. Giannolis will get forward, but also will slot in and get alongside Sarah or McLean in that midfield. And of course, you've got Barnes in that number 10 position. If they go with him, they might be interesting, because against Watford, they had a really strong bench. On the bench, they had Van Hooijdonk, they had Long, they had Bath, Nunes, Fisher. Like, it's a massively strong bench, with players that can influence the game. So from Cardiff's point of view, how will David Wagner look to line up? Because it's almost worrying from Cardiff's point of view, because the lack of goals is a problem. And like, you go in the week to West Brom and you concede an early goal, it causes issues big time. And that's an issue. So how can Cardiff stop what Norwich are going to do? Where's Norwich's dangers, shall we say? For me, the one to watch is going to be Barnes in that number 10 position. But also Gomez Sarah is such a good player. He'll kind of sit and dictate play, spray balls about, play little through balls, 1-2s, and he'll link up with Harvey Barnes and Hernandez in particular. They'll play little triangles, and then they'll look to get in the wide areas either through Hernandez or Stacey, or on the other side with Sains. Josh Sargent up front. If he starts up front, which I think he probably will, but Josh Sargent is such a good player, good hold-up player, but he's got a bit of pace and getting behind. Very clever, very intelligent striker. who can do some damage if Cardiff do not. If Cardiff give Norwich time and space and don't press and don't get tight to their men, particularly I'm looking at Gutas. Gutas has got to be better in the tackle. He gets tight, but in the last couple of games, his tackling has been clumsy. His first touch has been poor, and it's got him into trouble a few times against players like as Norwich, as they press with Sargent, Barnes, Sains, Hernandez, Van Hooijdonk, these types of players. If your first touch is not good, you're going to get caught out. So Gutas in particular has to be better with his first touch, has to be better with his tackling. It's going to be really interesting because Cardiff's left and Norwich's right is going to be a really important area. With Stacey and Hernandez on the right for Norwich, you have Jamalu Collins, who got a lot of stick after the West Brom game, particularly for the first goal. There's a lot of pace there, and he might get caught out. I think Grant will probably come back in for Cardiff, although he wouldn't play on the left if it was me. I will ask in the comments, when I come to do the Cardiff side, do you want me to pick the side that I would pick, or do you want me to try and guess what the manager will go with? Which is easier said than done at the moment, I guess. But in terms of how Norwich will line up, I think we'll see similar to the team they played against Watford. It'll be Angus Gunn in goals, Stacey, Sorensen, Gibson, and Gianollis will be the back four. Gomez, Sarah, and McLean will be the double pivot. Going to be vital again, whether it's Ramsey or whether it's Colwell or some other player. But in the Cardiff 10, really vital that they get in and around those two players, particularly Sarah, and try and disrupt them. One of the reasons I like Colwell in the 10 is because I think his physicality can disrupt the holding midfielder of the other team and really put him off his game. We saw it with Jake Livermore recently, where he ended up going off in for Watford because he wasn't able to influence the game as much as he normally does because Ruben Colwell was putting him under a lot of pressure. So in the comments, Matt says, pick the side you'd pick. Okay. So yeah, Gomez, Sarah, McLean will be in the double pivot for Norwich. And then you'll have, I think, Hernandez, Barnes. I got a feeling that Sidney Van Hooijdonk will play. And I think out of the three, you might see Barnes shift over to where Sains is on the left. And then Hooijdonk will play as the sort of deeper striker, maybe. And then Josh Sargent will be the forward player. In terms of Cardiff, first and foremost, Cardiff have got to play with more urgency, more aggression, need to defend properly, cut out the mistakes. And when we get into the final third, whether it's through progression of play, possession, or whether it's on a transition from winning the ball, we have to do things quicker. The wide players have got to be high and wide and get in behind the fullbacks. We've got to have a striker. If Jeju's coming short, the wide players and the number 10 have got to get in behind. We have to have some movement in behind. We have to get some balls in the box. The fullbacks need to push up. We've got to be quick. We're away from home, so we're going to sit in. We know we're going to sit in. We're going to play possession football. But when we get into that final third, if we have possession of the football, there's got to be movement off the ball and people have got to want the football. And if we win the ball and it's in a transition, we have to be quick to get in behind and make runs for your Ramseys or your Colwells or whoever, Turnbulls, to really find a way to play and get into these dangerous areas. And most importantly, when the chances come, we have to take them. And that means getting the right players on the pitch, which is something which I feel we haven't done most recently. We've been so often, I feel like, when we are getting a little bit of momentum or we're starting to look dangerous, the players who are looking dangerous get taken off. And then you get these players coming on who are not up to it. And they're missing big chances or they kill the creativity, whether that's off the bench or whether that's being picked from the starting lineup. Cardiff have to have a bit of urgency. Obviously, we've got to give the new players times to settle in. But also, the championship comes at you fast. So you have to be able to adapt. And for me, as I've said before, I think that Bulut is the man for the job. I think he's the man that Cardiff City should stick with. I think they should give him time. They should back him in the summer. Let him finish this rebuild. However, he's not devoid of criticism. My biggest criticism at the moment is that he's not picking what I believe to be his strongest 11. He's not sticking to what I believe is his strongest formation and tactics. But when the game goes against us, where we concede an early goal against West Brom, he's not adapting in game, so he's not learning from his mistakes. We're still very much side to side, backwards, very possession based. That's fine, but you've got to have a purpose, and it's got to be with reason. So there's got to be a lot of movement off the ball. Your wingers have got to be high and wide. Your fullbacks have got to get forward, etc. But also, if that's not working, which it hasn't been recently, go a bit more direct and then play off that. Not necessarily long balls into the channel, play the percentages. I'm not saying that. No one wants to see us go back to that. But you can be a little bit more direct. Long passes. We've got some good long passes in the side, particularly in the deep areas. Phillips is a good long passer. Siopis is a good long passer. So there is other people. There's players deep in that side. Turnbull, good long passer. NG is a good long passer. So utilize those diagonal balls. If the wingers are high and wide, you can switch play quickly. We've got players with the ability to do that. In terms of how I would line up, just going to very quickly see if I can bring up a lineup picker on the screen. I don't think I'm going to be able to get a Cardiff City specific one on my screen now, but we shall see if I can do it in 10 seconds. I don't think so. I just haven't had time to get a graphic or make a graphic. It's an interesting one, that. So Louise says, I've had on Instagram, the manager being too nice to his players. He needs to get nasty and the football needs to be more aggressive. 100% agree with you that the football needs to be more aggressive. On the manager being too nice, I'd be very, very surprised at that, only because there was obviously, you had some rumours at the start of the season that some of the players weren't happy with the way he went about things. He's not afraid to dig players out, which is kind of interesting, because you don't always see that these days, because players get offended and whatnot. However, look, I welcome all opinions first and foremost, and second, I think that some of these players need to be dug out. He's saying he's going to get nasty. Yeah, I mean, look, some of these players need to be dug out. So there's a few in that squad who their attitude is stinking. And I also think I said the other day, right? There's two aspects to it, right? So at the start of the season, Cardiff City were very good playing this possession football, and things were moving. We were moving through the lines. There was a lot of movement off the ball. We were controlling games, but we looked aggressive. We looked good in the attacking play. That's gone, and it's a lot sideways and backwards. So I said the other day, is either the players not listening to the manager in terms of how he wants to play and how he wants to create chances, or the manager's not adapting and trying to change things up. So one of those things is right, one of them is wrong. If my players are not listening to the manager, then the manager absolutely has to, even if he doesn't want to dig those players out publicly, he has to tell them personally, and they have to be out of the side. I can't see a good reason why Ollie Tanner has not had any minutes of late, unless his attitude is stinking and is like he's not training properly and whatnot. Then I can't understand why he hasn't had any minutes, or even off the bench. Like, he doesn't seem to come on. So that's fascinating to me, because we've seen this season how dangerous he can pick up these moments and create something special. So it seems weird when we're lacking goals that he's not getting any opportunity whatsoever. So in terms of how I would line up, let's just see, because the Michael Chopra one is going to start now at 9. So I would match up Norwich, and I also think it happens to be our best system in 4-2-3-1. I'm going Halverth in goal, simply because I don't know what's happening with Alnwick. I don't know if he's injured or not. He wasn't in the squad against West Brom. So I'm going Halverth in goal. Left back, I'm going Wilson as Brand, and hope that he can get forward on the break. I just think Jamalu Collins needs a break. And then, obviously, with McGuinness out, you're going Gutas and Phillips. However, I think there is a shout for moving NG inside and playing Romeo at right back, simply because Gutas has looked so out of sorts in the last couple of games that I think maybe there's an injury or something going on there, because I simply can't understand why he's been so rocky the last couple of games. So, I mean, maybe there's a chance for that. I don't know. In terms of outside of the defence, I want to see Siopis as the holding midfielder, and I want to see Turnbull next to him. I do not want to see any other combination, any other two in that position. I have got a really big concern that the manager's going to put Ramsey in there alongside Turnbull. And if that happens, we are going to get absolutely ran through, and we're not going to have the defensive capabilities to deal with it. And it could be quite a brutal watch, and it could be game over by half time if they pick that. Ramsey has not got the legs to play in a 2. He has to play at number 10. That's where he's best. That's where he's performed his best for Cardiff. That's when Cardiff have looked the best, is when Ramsey's in that 10. So I want to see Siopis and Turnbull as a 2. Siopis doing his thing as the holding midfielder, one of the best holding midfielders, out-and-out holding midfielders in the league, with Turnbull, who has all the qualities to be a fantastic number 8, box-to-box side, energy, but passing, great passer. And then is where it gets interesting. If Ramsey's fit, you go Ramsey 10, and then I would go with Karlan Grant on the right. Controversially, then, I'm going to go Ruben Cornwell off the left. Bowler's attitude is poor for me. And on the left-hand side, I want a left-footed winger. This is picking the side that I would pick. The left-hand side, I want a left-footed player. And so I would go Cornwell because he'll work hard. He'll help out Wilson. And you've also got Wilson Esbrand to link up with and get on the overlap. And then up front, I'd go Jeju. My prediction for the game, I'm going to go with 1-0 Cardiff City. I do feel if we can keep a clean sheet, we'll probably win. Norwich have got goals. So if Gutas and Phillips, and look, Howverth is a great keeper. So I do think that if we can get a clean sheet, we'll probably win the game. But we've got to score goals. We've got to be more aggressive. We've got to be urgent in the way we play, because it's just everything's too slow. And if the possession play and trying to play from the back is not working, I want to see us play it up to Jeju and play off him. Ramsey, Colwell, Grant, whoever playing off him. That's the side I would go with. Let me know in the comments what your predictions are. Let me know in the comments what side you would play. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. Michael Chopra starts now on Cardiff City World. It's the part 2. Now, go and watch it. I might join you in the chat myself. Big up, subscribe, share, like, all that good things. Spread the word about Cardiff City World. Tell your friends. Cardiff City's official fan channel. Big up. Nice one.